Well, welcome everybody. I'm super excited to have Taryn with us today, who's not only a dedicated advocate who, shares her story and passion to give hope and educate communities about suicide. She, has her bachelor's degree in psychology and she's in a master's social work program, but she's also a friend. So welcome, Taryn.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
I really want us to start with your story. And because it's such a moving story that brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So I always joke that I didn't pick suicide prevention or mental health advocate as my, job title or something I had planned for my career. Life does what life does, which has brought me here due to circumstance. So back in 2002, I was a single mom. I had 2 kids. I had just finished my cosmetology, career license, if you will, and was doing hair and also working at JCPenney when our lives would be forever changed. And that was the day that I lost my dad to suicide. My dad's death by suicide happened as a culmination of a lifelong battle with depression, anxiety, and substance use disorder. And I was the one who found him. And so that experience for me was always very bittersweet. I didn't think I'd do that today. Mostly because, there was such a unique relationship he and I shared. We both had struggled with very similar demons. And so we understood one another's battle. And so when he died, it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't something that was shocking. It was quite honestly something we had expected, but really didn't know how to prevent, didn't know how to help, because back then the stigma that surrounded both addiction and mental health specifically were just so stigmatized that he didn't even know how to get help. And so, I found myself sitting at my computer in just grief and shock and just wanting to know what now, right? How do I get up and move through this? How do I feed my kids? How do I, be a mom? How do I go to work? I just didn't know how to move forward. And I came across an organization in my AOL dial-up search. I dated myself. You remember those days though, right?
Yes.
But I came across an organization called the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and just started reading and learning like we do, all the things that had led up to where our family was and what we could do to support ourselves and get help for others. And just knew that this was going to be my new mission, that I was going to do everything I could to help make sure that another daughter didn't have to lose her dad and that another family didn't have to feel the devastation we felt, and that my own mental health could become a priority so that I didn't travel down that same path.
I love that. There's you said it perfectly, that there's been such a stigma around mental health.
Yeah.
And I think one of the positive things that came from COVID was that we talk about it. It's a thing now where, it was taboo for so long. Like you didn't talk about, if you were seeing a psychologist or if you were on medication. Everything was very much, you just kept it to yourself. And I know that you were one of the people that is so passionate about this, that you've been in Washington, D.C. advocating for this. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had a really unique opportunity. It was actually a congresswoman from California, Grace Napolitano, who had kind of led an effort, to really increase funding early on. And by early on, I mean about 10 years ago, right, where we were starting to have these more, robust conversations about addressing mental health, taking care of it, what it looked like, getting rid of stigma. So she had us come, and there was a panel of us who had lived experience, which simply means we've been affected by mental health. I shared my experience of attempting suicide and what that had led up to that. And then more importantly, what I had done to recover and what I still do today to address that. And so, even just a few months back, Biden, he added unprecedented funding in his budget, to address not just suicide prevention, but mental health and mental health services and increasing capacity for people to get care. And so we're finally, like you mentioned, and I agree with you, the pandemic finally broke some of the barriers that kept us from discussing this, because it leveled the playing field. All of us recognized, whether we had struggled before or not, that mental health is real, depression is real, anxiety is real, and it can affect any one of us. And we know about 20% of our population lives with a mental health disorder. So we need to start getting the help and support out there for folks.
20%. So as leaders in our companies, there's a push for wellness in the workplace. So what are some things that we as leaders can specifically do to help our team?
Yeah, it's having the conversations about it, inviting somebody in to come and do a training if you'd like to learn more about what is mental health, what does depression look like, what does anxiety look like, how do we address that? When we talk about wellness, it isn't just our physical body. We know that our physical health affects our mental health, and our mental health affects our physical health. So if we address both and really treat the whole person, we know that people who live mentally well are more productive in the workplace. And I think something that a lot of us do is when we are struggling with our mental health, right? We still try to show up. We still try to push through, versus if I have a cold, I take a day, I try to rest my body because I know I need to. And sometimes we need to do the same with our mental health. So just again, embracing that and valuing that people have both. And that if we support people in taking care of their mental health, they're going to be able to show up for work and be more productive when they're feeling, again, whole.
How would you recommend that we start that conversation? Because a lot of places, there's been that, you said it perfectly, that stigma, like you don't want to necessarily bring that up, but sometimes we can see those people that are struggling, but how do we have that conversation?
Yeah, so there's some great organizations. One that I love is called the National Council on Behavioral Health, and they offer a training called Mental Health First Aid. And this just really breaks down each and every mental health condition. And the best part about it is it starts talking about early recognition, right? Again, if we recognize when a mental health condition is starting and we get ahead of it sooner, the outcomes are so much better, and depression we know is one of the most common. It's one of the most debilitating, but also most treatable of all illness. And so when we recognize somebody going down that path, right, that early identification, so becoming trained in a basic gatekeeper program that gives you tips and tools. AFSP, our organization, has specific training that looks at what to do and how to have these conversations. It's like anything else. Put a plan in place now. If we do screening for other conditions like heart attack, stroke, vision screening, dental screening, we all take care of it. So having a mental health, we call it a checkup from the neck up, right? Making sure that we're doing okay. Maybe setting aside a wellness day each month where you do something that solely focuses on employee mental wellness. Whether that's meditation, mindfulness, yoga, just helping people cultivate things that they can do to create, that culture that says, hey, we care about your wellness and we want to do something to make sure you're taking care of you.
I love that, because I think that it's such an important aspect of work nowadays. We spend more time here than we do with our own family. So to have your leaders truly care and offer those types of services and stuff really just adds that extra bonus level.
Yeah.
Looking at you and the story that you've had that brought you here, what are some things that you do to maintain yourself? Because you're traveling, you're speaking, you have a family, you have things, you're busy. How do you, as somebody who openly says that you've struggled with these things, how do you maintain yourself?
I have to prioritize, right? So there's certain things I do every single day. I do live in recovery from substance use disorder and alcohol use. And so I wake up each morning, I set aside time to do some reading. I meditate each day. On the days that I don't do that, I feel it. I can tell already. I'm like, because I haven't started my day the way I'm used to. I attend meetings still. I participate in a support group that I can talk openly about the things that I've dealt with and been through. I have a network, right? Cultivate a few people that can be your support system where you can be open and honest. I try to work out each day. I'm not great at it every day, but I try to get moving, right? Be mindful of what I eat. I know that what I eat affects my mental health. So it's looking at those little things. But one of the biggest I'll say, is I plan time to do the things I love. Just this last weekend, I went out and golfed again for the first time since November because it's been so cold. Golfing is something I do that helps me just relax. So find those things that are passionate for you. And then I took a mental health day a few days ago. I just called my boss. I told my school, I told my internship, and my family, I said, I need a day. I need a day where I just do something that fills my cup. And I actually went and spent the day with my daughter-in-law and my grandbabies and just let those little twins crawl all over me. And we watched Miss Rachel and it just made my heart full. So again, identify the things that help you and then make a commitment. I have to keep my mental health a priority. Otherwise, I know where it goes and I'm not willing to go there again.
And I think there comes a level of acceptance that it's not going to be perfect all the time. And I think that's where people struggle. So talk about that.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is just being in the present moment, right? Because again, right here, right now, I'm okay. And you're right. Life isn't perfect. Life is so messy. And so just learning to ride the wave, okay, where it's going to ebb, it's going to flow, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Allow the feeling. It isn't permanent. It's going to change. It won't take us over unless we let it. Right? I can stay in it. I can sit down and throw a little pity party and stay in the grossness of it. Or I can say, all right, I don't like how this feels. I don't like where I'm at. What can I do? And, I always go back to this practice that I learned as a Paul Mitchell educator, which was, the practicing this sense of, kind of the 3 laws of the mind and acknowledging, right? And then making a little shift. What's a 10% shift? What's something little I can do to move me forward? And that's where I try to look. I try to stay in that forward thinking. Again, I'm not great at it. There's days that I'm living in the past and woe is me, but then I just have to remember it's done. Can't do anything about it. Tomorrow ain't here yet. Right here, right now is where I have power. And so stay in that moment.
I love that. You also mentioned about filling your cup. And I want you to talk a little more about that because I think a lot of us are people pleasers and we're givers, but talk about the importance of giving to yourself.
Yeah. I think a lot of us struggle with that. I'm actually sitting here at my sister-in-law's house because I said yes to babysitting kids when I really shouldn't be babysitting kids. I have to learn how to say no sometimes. And again, I'm not great at it either. But we have to practice boundaries, and be able to say, I don't have that in me today. It's like the little gal or gentleman on the airplane when they tell us that we have to put our own mask on first, right? If I don't take care of me, I'm no good to anybody else. And I always say too, there's a cup sitting right in front of me. And yes, I need to fill it with goodness, but sometimes our cup is overflowing and we need to dump it out and start again, right? Let some of the garbage out, let some of the heaviness out, and then refill it with the things that help us to feel good. And so it's a delicate balance and it's a practice. And again, it's all I can do is today, hopefully tomorrow I'll be better about saying no next time when I know I have too much on my plate, but I don't want to, upset somebody. So yeah, it's a practice, man. And that's what I love. I get to practice. I'm never going to be perfect at it. So progress, not perfection.
I love that. And you talked about living in the present. And I just was listening to something that was talking about when people focus so much on the future, it causes anxiety. And I think we're seeing now more than ever, people being anxious. And so talk a little bit about anxiousness and anxiety and some ways to kind of calm yourself.
Yeah, we live in such a world of uncertainty right now. I mean, we know things are they're changing every day. There's so much unrest socially, politically. There's just a lot being thrown at us. And so again, be mindful of what you allow your brain to take in. Maybe it's limiting the time that you spend on the news or on your social media or what apps you're following. I just deleted Twitter because I said, I can't, and the reason why is because I caught myself being negative, and I don't like that. That's not who I am as a person. I don't want to be mean, but that's what some of the social media apps help to fill these days, is it gives us this platform to just kind of spew whatever. And so I had to limit that, right? I don't have Facebook. There's certain things that I've had to do to just limit my own intake. So again, that's where mindfulness comes in. That's where we pause. That's where we breathe. I've been doing an internship for my master's degree at the state hospital. So I'm working with folks who have some pretty serious mental illness, and we always go back to the basics, right? When I'm overwhelmed, it's stop, sit down, right? We put our hands on our bellies and we do deep breathing where we sit and let our belly expand and then we let it go, right? But even just that breathing, it helps to balance out our homeostasis, if you will, right? And we can feel present in our body again. And so, find those things that work for you. If it's going outside, if it's, just, again, taking a 5-minute break, going in the bathroom where nobody can talk to you, whatever it is you need to do, especially at work. Work can be stressful, right? So finding those things that help you to balance. And then again, if I notice that I'm getting too overwhelmed, what can I limit, right? What can I limit? And then supplementing that with the things that'll help to bring you some joy.
When you say what can you limit, what advice would you give for people to be okay with saying no and knowing their limit? Because I think that is extremely hard. And sometimes we might not even recognize our limit until we're way past it.
Definitely. The thing I think that helps people understand that is to just learn how to become self-aware. Some of us do this through self-help books because we can gain that insight on our own. Some of us see a therapist. That's me, right? I have somebody that I go to when I just need to vomit my life and then he listens and helps me reframe it and put it back together. I also participate in different 12-step fellowships. One of my favorite books that I ever read that helped me to understand the importance of taking care of me was Melody Beattie's Codependent No More. That's what codependency is, where we try to caretake and control and do everything for everybody versus going, wait a second, the only person I have power over is me. Damn it, right? I wish I could control everything, but we can't. And so being aware of what your limits are, meaning that you've practiced. If you know that that tells you, okay, I've taken on too much. Let me start looking at what did I take on? What's causing me the most stress? What can I realistically do today? There's days I have to do a little to-do list and I may get 1 or 2 things done, but that sometimes helps me prioritize. Maybe it's in your computer, closing all the tabs out, but the thing you're working on, I am notorious for having 20 tabs open at once, trying to do 20 different things, and I don't get anything done. And I feel stressed. Well, duh, do one, focus on one thing at a time. So it's just practicing some of those really simple skills. And again, if you're not sure, that's a great time to maybe find somebody that you can work with, again, whether that's a therapist or a life coach to help you look at your life and see what it is that matters to you, what your priorities are. And then the things that are of little or maybe not as much importance, again, practice letting those things go. Again, you might pick it up tomorrow. That's okay. You can also set it down and try again.
Absolutely. You've talked about a therapist a few times, and I'm an advocate for therapy. I think every person needs to see a therapist. I think it's amazing to have an outside person who has zero views on your life other than they're just there to listen and guide you. Talk to that person that might be on the fence about struggling with going to get somebody.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I do. I think everyone needs a therapist because, again, sometimes the people we vomit to are the people that we're close to, the people that we can offend and hurt. And then we don't want to. And then we just created more wreckage that we can't do anything about. And so having somebody like you mentioned, who isn't biased towards you, who's maybe willing to be truthful with you. That's what I love about mine, is he's willing to tell me the things that sometimes I don't want to hear, but I need to hear. And again, because he's not my spouse or my sister or my brother or my friend, it doesn't hurt my feelings as much, right? I can hear it and kind of go, ugh. but then I can rumble with it until I can find it. But no, I think there's just such value. You know, Einstein said it best. He said that the brain that creates the problem can't solve it. And all of us know that experience because we've been stuck in our head trying to figure out the answer to something. We're stuck. You know, we can't do it. And then the minute we utter it to somebody else, they say, well, have you thought of? And you go, duh, like, no, I didn't even think of that. Right. And the answer can sometimes be so simple. But that's the benefit in talking to somebody else is they might have a different perspective and a different insight that our own mind couldn't come up with. And that's what I love about therapy. Now, again, some people don't want to talk. You don't have to. Today's world, there's music therapy, art therapy, equine. I mean, you can do anything, rock climbing. You find a group of people who like to do what you like to do. They get you out of your head and you find ways to connect. You know, that's what therapy is. It's getting support. It's not trying to do it by yourself. We weren't meant to, you know, we need people. And so find that thing that works for you. If you've had a crappy experience with the therapist, get a second opinion, try somebody else. You know, you have to find that therapeutic relationship. A great website people can visit is Psychology Today. So psychologytoday.com, put in your zip code, put in your insurance, put in what you're looking for. You can find a variety of folks in your area. You can set up little meetings to chat with them to see if it's a fit. But that's what I, you know, had to do. And I've been lucky. I've had my same therapist since I was 12. We just get together now and kind of shoot the, you know what, and just BS. But I still see him. And then there's been times where I've needed other support that he said, hey, I'm not the best one for you in this realm. Let's see if we can find someone else. And I've done that, you know, and so we've built a really great relationship where we just, I can hear what he wants to say. I'll be sad when the day comes that I need to probably seek out somebody else, but I know that I'm going to have to do that sooner than later, and I'll be prepared for that day. So
as leaders, what advice do you give us as we navigate through the world that we're currently in?
I would say lead by example. And again, what that means is if you're going to preach it, do it. Take care of you. Remember, it is not up to you to solve the problems of your employees either. It is not up to you to fix whatever is happening in their world, because you can't. But you can be there, you can guide, you can encourage, you can support. But you also have to have that oxygen mask too. And so I would just invite you to find what works for you, you know, and if you prioritize it, if it's important to you, it will be important to them. You know, Brene Brown always says, if we don't model behavior, people will never attach value to it, especially if we have youth or kids or people that look up to us. And that's often the case with leaders, right? You lead by example. And on the days that you need a break, you do it, and you be honest about it, because then again, the people that are under you or by you or around you go, wow, look, they're taking care of themselves too. It gives others permission to do the same.
Perfectly said. So as we wrap this up, how can people get in touch with you? Talk a little bit about the organization that you're part of as well.
Yeah, so I work right now for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We are a national nonprofit with chapters all across the United States. We're in all 50 states. I work for the Utah chapter. So afsp.org is our website. There's so much great information about, again, how to take care of ourselves, how to talk to somebody if we're worried that they might be in trouble or in crisis, where to get support if you have been affected by mental health and suicide, both for loss and attempts. You know, my information's on our Utah website. So afsp.org/Utah. That's the easiest way to find the chapter near you. Just put the little backslash in your state behind afsp.org. But you'll find folks in your area who, again, share your experiences, and you can get connected to support and resources.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Taryn, so much for joining us. I know everybody that's listening appreciates all that you do. I know I do, and I will be seeing you soon.
I love you, my friend. Thank you.
Love you as well. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.